My name is Grace Ramos, and I am 33 years old. I live in a quiet neighborhood in a small town in western Michigan with my husband, Miguel. The kind of place where the 4th of July break creeps in slow with flags popping up on porches and everyone pretending the long weekend will fix whatever's been simmering under the surface. I was sitting on my back patio with my best friend Dolores Chavez one evening, both of us balanced on those old wooden chairs that creak if you shift too fast. We had coffee going, and the kind of easy silence that only happens with someone who's known you long enough and to not need small talk. Dolores had swung by after her shift at the clinic because the break had us both a little restless. We started with the usual how the elementary school where I teach was already half empty, how the town felt like it was holding its breath before the fireworks and family plans kicked in. Then my phone lit up on the table, a message from my Aunt Elena. I almost ignored it until I saw the preview. Grace, I forwarded this by mistake. You need to see what Carmen sent in the group chat earlier. I'm sorry, honey. I tapped it open. There was a screenshot of the family group thread. My older sister Carmen had written, "Plain as day, Grace is so checked out lately. Mom needed help with the flower beds last week, and she said she couldn't get away." Meanwhile, I'm the one driving over every time something comes up. Some of us actually show up for family. My mother had replied right underneath with a little laughing face and, "You know your sister. She's always been the independent one. At least we can count on you, Carmen." I read it twice. The words didn't even surprise me at first. They just landed like something I'd been waiting to feel for years. My older sister had this talent for turning every small choice I made into proof that I didn't care enough. And my mother never once pushed back. She just let it sit there like it was fact. Dolores leaned over when she saw my face. "What is it?" I slid the phone across the table without saying anything. She read the screenshot, then looked up at me slow. "Grace, they're talking about you like you're not even in the chat." I gave a short, sharp laugh that didn't feel like mine. That's the thing about my older sister. She gets to decide what the story is. I move a couple hours away for a teaching job, and suddenly I'm the one who abandoned everybody. I set one boundary about not dropping everything every weekend, and I'm the selfish one. My mother just smiles and lets her do it because it's easier than admitting the favorite child might be wrong. Dolores pushed the phone back toward me. "You gonna say something?" I picked it up and typed fast before I could talk myself out of it. A message straight to my mother. "Mom, I saw what Carmen wrote about me in the group. The part about me not helping with the yard. Is that really what you think?" The 3 dots appeared almost immediately. Her reply came through like she'd been waiting to type it. "Grace, please don't make a big deal out of nothing. Your sister was just frustrated. She's the one who's here all the time. You know how she gets when she's stressed. You're being too sensitive again. Family doesn't keep score like that." I stared at the screen until the words blurred. No apology. No, let me talk to Carmen. Just the same old defense that had been happening since we were kids. My older sister could say whatever she wanted behind my back, and my mother would clean it up by telling me I was the problem for hearing it. Dolores watched me set the phone down. "You okay?" I took a slow sip of coffee that had gone cold. "I'm fine. I'm just tired of pretending the picture they paint is the real one." My older sister gets the version where she's the hero who holds everything together. I get the version where I'm cold and distant and dramatic. And everybody nods along because it's easier than asking why I stopped coming around as much. The patio felt smaller all of a sudden. The quiet neighborhood around us was the same one I'd chosen because it felt safe, no big family drama bleeding into every corner. But the message had followed me here anyway. My older sister didn't need to be in the same town to keep controlling how people saw me. She just needed my mother to keep agreeing with her. I thought about the holiday break stretching out in front of us, the flags going up on porches, the quiet expectation that we'd all show up somewhere and act like the cracks weren't there. My husband Miguel would probably ask if I wanted to skip whatever they were planning the way he always did when he saw that look on my face. My best friend sitting across from me was already giving me the out with her eyes. But walking away still felt like losing something I wasn't sure I ever really had. And staying meant swallowing one more round of "you're too sensitive" while my older sister kept the story exactly the way she liked it. I didn't answer Dolores right away. I just watched the last bit of light fade over the backyard fence and wondered how many more forwarded messages it would take before I stopped caring what the story looked like to anyone else. I sat there with Dolores a while longer, the coffee gone cold between us on the wooden table. The quiet neighborhood around us felt almost too peaceful, like it was mocking the storm that had just landed in my phone. I told her about the other times, not the big dramatic ones, but the small, steady cuts that had added up over the years. How my older sister Carmen could turn any choice I made into proof I was pulling away from the family, and how my mother Alice would just nod along, like it was the most natural thing in the world. Dolores listened without interrupting the way good friends do when they know you need to get it out. "She's always been like that with you," she said finally. "Your sister gets the spotlight for showing up, and you get the side eye for having a life that doesn't revolve around their schedule. It's not fair." I gave her a short, bitter smile. Fair stopped mattering a long time ago. My older sister figured out early that if she framed me as the difficult one, nobody would ever ask why she needed to be the hero so badly. And my mother, she'd rather keep the picture looking nice than admit the frame is cracked. The back door opened behind us, and my husband, Miguel Ruiz, stepped out still in his work clothes from the shop. He took one look at my face and the phone on the table and knew something had shifted. Dolores gave me a quick hug, said she'd check in tomorrow, and headed out through the side gate. Miguel pulled up the other chair and waited. I showed him the screenshot. He read it once, then again, his jaw tightening in that quiet way he had when he was holding back anger on my behalf. "She really sent that to the whole group," he said, not a question. "Yep." And my mother replied, like it was just another Tuesday. I leaned back in the chair and stared at the darkening sky. It's the same pattern every time. My older sister takes a shot, my mother defends it as venting, and I'm supposed to swallow it so nobody's holiday gets ruined. Miguel reached over and took my hand. "You don't have to swallow it this time, Grace. You've spent years trying to keep the peace while they rewrite who you are. If you want to say something, say it. I'll back whatever you decide." His steady voice helped, but the knot in my chest didn't loosen. I knew he meant it. My husband had watched this dynamic for years without ever pushing me to just get over it. Still, the idea of pushing back felt like stepping into a fight I'd been losing quietly for most of my life. Later that night, after Dolores had gone and Miguel was in the shower, I sat on the edge of our bed and typed another message to my mother, shorter this time. Mom, the message from Carmen wasn't nothing. It was her talking about me like I'm the problem for not dropping everything whenever she decides the family needs something. "I'm not doing this anymore." Her reply came in under a minute. "Grace, you're making this into something bigger than it is. Your sister loves you. She just gets frustrated when it feels like you're not there for us the way she is. Can we please not turn this into a whole thing right before the holiday?" I read it twice, the familiar mix of guilt and irritation rising fast. She hadn't asked how I felt. She hadn't said Carmen was out of line. She had simply reminded me that keeping the surface calm was more important than the truth underneath it. I was still staring at the screen when my phone rang. Aunt Elena. I almost let it go to voicemail, but something made me answer. "Grace, I'm sorry I forwarded that." She said, her voice low and careful. "I hit the wrong name in the group. But I want you to know I don't agree with what your sister wrote, or with how your mother always jumps to defend her. You've always been the one who thinks for herself, and they act like that's a flaw instead of a strength." The words landed differently than anything my mother had said. Aunt Elena had never been loud about taking sides before. Hearing her say it out loud made the invisible line in the family feel sharper than ever. We talked for a few more minutes. She told me she'd seen more in the group chat over the past few weeks, little digs about how I never visit enough, how I think I'm too good for small-town life now. Nothing huge on its own, just enough to keep the story of me as the distant one alive. After we hung up, I sat in the quiet bedroom and let it sink in. My older sister hadn't needed to yell or cause a scene. She had simply kept feeding the same narrative, and my mother had kept nodding. The power wasn't loud, it was steady, patient, and completely one-sided. The next morning, the pressure started in earnest. A text from my mother at 7:30. We're doing a small get-together at the house tomorrow evening before the fireworks. Just family. It would mean a lot if you and Miguel came. Don't let one silly message ruin the holiday for everyone. I didn't answer right away. I made coffee, got dressed for the last day of school before the break, and tried to focus on anything else. But the message sat there like a test. I was already failing. By lunchtime, another text came through, this one from my older sister, Carmen, directly. Mom said you saw what I wrote. If you have a problem, we can talk like adults instead of running to her. Or you can keep acting like the victim. Your choice. I read it on the steps outside the school, the afternoon sun warm on my face while the words felt cold. My older sister had turned my seeing the message into me running to Mom. She had flipped it before I could even respond, and she had done it in a single text, like she knew exactly how to keep the upper hand. I didn't reply. I slipped the phone back into my bag and walked to my car, the familiar bitter taste in my mouth. For years, I had let these small moments slide because calling them out always made me the difficult one. But this time, the forwarded message had landed in my lap like proof I couldn't ignore. My aunt had seen it too. My husband had seen it. Even my best friend Dolores had sat on that patio and watched the color drain from my face. That evening after Miguel got home, I told him about Carmen's text and my mother's invitation to the get-together. He listened without pushing, then said the thing I already knew but didn't want to hear out loud. You can go and try to clear the air, or you can stay home and protect your peace. Either way, they're going to have a story about it. I nodded, staring out the kitchen window at the quiet street. The neighbor across the way, Ralph Aguirre, was putting up a small flag on his porch for the holiday. He waved when he saw me looking. I waved back, but my hand felt heavy. I picked up my phone and typed the reply to my mother before I could change my mind. We'll stop by tomorrow evening, but I'm not pretending everything's fine. Her answer came back quick. Good. Family should be together for the holiday. See you then. I set the phone down and felt the weight of the decision settle. I had chosen to walk into the room where the story about me had been written without me for years. I told myself it was to finally say something out loud, but a colder part of me already knew how it would probably go. My older sister would have the perfect response ready, my mother would smooth it over, and I would end up looking like the one who couldn't let things go. Still, I had said it. I had drawn the line in a text they couldn't pretend they hadn't seen. The rest of the night passed in that strange quiet that happens when you know a storm is coming, but you're not sure how bad it will be. Miguel made dinner. We ate on the patio again, this time without the easy conversation from the night before. I kept checking my phone, even though I knew I shouldn't. Around 9, another message came through from the family group chat. It wasn't from my mother or my older sister this time. It was from my father, Jesse, short and careful. Looking forward to seeing everyone tomorrow. Grace, drive safe. That was it. No defense of me. No pushback against Carmen. Just the quiet expectation that I would show up and keep the peace the way I always had. I showed it to Miguel. He didn't say anything for a long minute. Then he reached over and turned my phone face down on the table. Whatever happens tomorrow, you don't have to stay if it gets ugly, he said. We can leave whenever you want. I nodded, but the knot in my chest had already started to tighten. I had spent so long trying to be the daughter who didn't make waves. Now I had agreed to walk straight into the middle of them. The next evening came faster than I wanted. I changed clothes twice, trying to find something that felt like armor without looking like I was trying too hard. Miguel waited by the door keys in hand, giving me the space to change my mind. I didn't. I grabbed my purse, took one last look at the quiet house that had become my real home, and followed him out to the car. As we pulled away from the curb, my phone buzzed one more time. A private message from my older sister, Carmen. Just 3 words. Don't embarrass us. I stared at the screen until the words burned. Then I locked the phone, dropped it into the cup holder, and looked out at the streets starting to fill with holiday flags. I had no idea yet how badly I was about to underestimate how far my older sister would go to keep the story exactly the way she had written it. The drive to my parents' house took less than 15 minutes, but it felt longer with every block we passed. Miguel kept one hand on the wheel and the other resting near mine on the center console. Neither of us said much. The small town streets were already lined with flags and folding chairs people had dragged out for the fireworks later. It should have felt festive. Instead, it felt like walking into a room where everyone already knew the ending of the story except me. We pulled up to the modest house where I grew up. My mother Alice had put a small flag in the flower bed out front. My father Jesse's truck sat in the driveway next to my older sister Carmen's car. Aunt Elena's sedan was parked along the curb. I took a slow breath before we got out. Inside, the living room smelled like the lasagna my mother always made for holidays. Carmen was already there, sitting on the arm of the couch, with her usual bright smile that didn't quite reach her eyes when she looked at me. My mother came out of the kitchen, wiping her hands on a towel, and pulled me into a quick hug like nothing had happened. "Glad you made it," she said. We were starting to wonder. My older sister gave a little laugh. "Yeah, we know how busy you get these days." The comment landed exactly where she wanted it to. I felt Miguel's hand settle lightly on my back, steadying me. I didn't answer her. I just nodded and moved to sit in the chair near the window. For the first 20 minutes, it was surface talk, the weather, the fireworks schedule, how quiet the town got during the break. My father, Jesse, mostly listened, adding a word here and there. Aunt Elena sat across from me and gave me a small private smile when no one else was looking. She knew why I had come. Then my mother brought out the lasagna, and we moved to the dining table. That was when I decided I wasn't going to let the evening slide by pretending. I waited until everyone had food on their plates. Then I set my fork down and looked at my older sister. "I saw the message you sent in the group chat," I said, keeping my voice even. The one about me not helping with the yard, and I saw what Mom replied. The table went quiet. My mother froze with the serving spoon halfway to her plate. My older sister's smile tightened at the edges. "Oh," Carmen said, drawing the word out like it was ridiculous. "So that's why you're here. You're going to make a scene at Mom's house over a text I sent when I was frustrated." "I'm not making a scene," I answered. "I'm saying it out loud because I'm tired of the version of me you two keep telling everyone else. I set one boundary, and suddenly I'm the daughter who doesn't care. You get to be the one who's always there, and I get to be the problem for not dropping everything every time you decide the family needs something." My mother set the spoon down hard. "Grace, this is not the time. We talked about this already. Your sister was just venting. You're turning it into something it's not." Aunt Elena spoke before I could answer. Her voice was calm but clear. "Actually, Alice, I think Grace has a right to say how she feels. That message wasn't kind, and it wasn't the first one I've seen in that chat." My older sister's head snapped toward Aunt Elena. "You forwarded it to her." That was a private family conversation. It stopped being private the second you put it in the group, Aunt Elena said. She looked at me, then steady. "You've always been the one who thinks for herself, Grace." They act like that's something to apologize for. The room shifted. My father Jesse stared at his plate. My mother's face had gone tight with the kind of anger she usually hid behind politeness. My older sister leaned forward, her voice dropping into that sharp, familiar tone she used when she wanted to win. "You know what your problem is, Grace?" she said. "You moved a couple hours away and decided that made you better than the rest of us. You don't show up. You don't call. And then you act shocked when people notice, at least I'm here. At least Mom can count on me when she needs something." The words hit the same place they always had. The quiet, constant comparison that had shaped years of family dinners and holidays. I felt something crack open in my chest. Not anger this time. Something older and heavier. I stood up slowly. My voice came out smaller than I wanted it to. I have spent years listening to you decide who I am. Years of you turning every choice I make into proof that I don't love this family enough. And Mom, you let her do it because it's easier than admitting the picture you like isn't real. My mother's eyes filled with the quick defensive tears she always used when she felt cornered. Don't you dare put this on me. I have tried so hard to keep this family together. You're the one who keeps pulling away. I looked at her, really looked at her, and felt the last thread of the old hope snap. You didn't keep it together, Mom. You kept the version of it that made you comfortable. And every time I tried to tell you it hurt, you told me I was too sensitive. The tears came then hot and sudden. I didn't try to stop them. I am so tired, I said, my voice breaking. I am so tired of being the difficult one for noticing when I'm being erased. I came here tonight because I thought maybe saying it out loud would change something, but it won't. It never does. Miguel was already standing beside me, his hand on my arm. We're going, he said quietly. My older sister crossed her arms. Of course you are. Run away again. That's what you do best. Aunt Elena stood up too. Carmen, that's enough. But I didn't wait for more. I walked out of the dining room, through the living room with its holiday flags on the mantel, and out the front door. Miguel followed close behind. We got in the car without speaking. As we pulled away from the curb, I saw my mother standing in the doorway, arms wrapped around herself. My older sister had already turned back inside. The drive home was silent except for the sound of me trying to breathe through the shaking in my chest. When we got back to our quiet house, I went straight to the patio and sat in the same chair I had been in 2 nights earlier with Dolores. The tears kept coming ugly and unstoppable. Miguel brought me water and sat with me without trying to fix it. I thought if I just said it calmly, they would hear me. I said eventually, my voice raw. I thought maybe this time it would be different. He didn't answer with empty comfort. He just held my hand while I cried out years of small, steady erasures. The forwarded message had been the crack. The gathering had been the collapse. And now I was sitting in the dark on my own patio with nothing left of the story I had tried so hard to keep alive. My phone buzzed once. A text from Aunt Elena. I'm proud of you for saying it. Call me when you're ready. I'm on your side. I read it twice, then set the phone down. No reply from my mother. No text from my older sister. The family group chat stayed quiet. They had already started the process of closing ranks without me. In the days that followed, the distance grew exactly the way I had feared and somehow needed. My mother sent one short message 2 days later. I hope you're happy with how you handled things. Then nothing. My older sister didn't reach out at all. The surface harmony we had all pretended existed for years was gone, and I felt the loss of it like a bruise that wouldn't fade. But something else happened in the quiet that came after. I stopped waiting for the next message that would tell me who I was supposed to be. I stopped checking the group chat. I stopped carrying the weight of being the one who had to smooth everything over so nobody else felt uncomfortable. My husband Miguel and I spent the rest of the break doing small, ordinary things, walks around the neighborhood where Ralph Aguirre waved from his porch and didn't ask questions, dinners on the patio with Dolores when she stopped by evenings, where the only story being told about me was the one I was living in real time. Protecting my peace cost me the version of family I had kept hoping would someday feel safe. It cost me the easy holidays and the group texts and the illusion that blood meant automatic loyalty. But it gave me something I had been missing for years without knowing how much I needed it. The simple, steady knowledge that I no longer had to audition for a place at a table that only welcomed the version of me that stayed quiet. My older sister had spent years making sure everyone saw me as the problem. My mother had spent just as long agreeing with her. The forwarded message and the gathering finally showed me the truth. I had been too afraid to name out loud. Blood relation does not equal love, and love that requires you to disappear is not love at all. I chose myself that night on the patio after the gathering. It was not a clean victory. It was messy and it hurt, and it left me crying in the dark with my husband holding my hand while the fireworks went off somewhere in the distance. But it was mine. And for the first time in a long time, that felt like enough. Thank you for listening to my story. If this one about finally choosing your piece, even when it means losing the picture everyone else wanted to keep, hit deep, tell me in the comments what you would have done when that forwarded message landed. I read every single one.